Okay, welcome everybody to the select board meeting of September 16th. Will you join me in saying the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for everybody coming down tonight. As you can see, we have a pretty, not a really huge agenda, but we have the police department here. We'll be talking shortly. But first up, we're gonna do the warrants. And Brian has a general fund warrant.
Right, thank you, John. So general fund warrant dated September 12th, 2024. The total amount is $166,129.52. The vast majority of it is from one line item, which is our annual library assessment. That amount is $142,560. That's the vast majority of it. Everything else looks good. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pass the general fund warrant as presented.
Second. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, real quick, I need somebody to make a motion to amend the agenda to put, public comment at number 5 in the St. Albans Police Department updates at number 4.
So move.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll continue with Jack with the miscellaneous warrants.
Do you want, we better do them singly because there's the big ones here. Okay, got the stormwater utility warrant for $231. Oh, that's for the Tanglewood project. Infrastructure development warrant in the amount of $250,317.80.
Now
And
that's, oh, go ahead.
That's for the sidewalk on the south end of town. That's all done.
A few little things to finish, yeah.
And federal ARPA fund warrant for $9,617.50. And that's a tent rental, I assume, for the Bay Park.
Yeah, it's 3,000.
And excavating outfit for, what was that for? Sloan's. Okay. Okay. Sidewalk work. And industrial park warrant for $961.46. That's for the lights, sewage pump and the road street lights. And I make the motion to approve.
Okay, anybody want to second that? one?
Second that.
Thank you, Brian. Any further discussion?
I just have one question. How did we do on the budget for the sidewalk? When
The retaining wall is what pushed it over.
okay.
The budget, yeah. And that was just to kind of connect it. It just looks a lot better, I guess.
Yeah, no, looks great.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jeff, you have the payroll.
I have the payroll warrant. There's only one this meeting, stated September 2nd to September 8th, 2024. And it's in the amount of $26,605.94. And it's the standard payroll, which is what it costs to run the town per week. I make a motion that we would approve it as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So that wraps up those minutes in your packet. You have the minutes from our September 4th regular meeting. If anybody would like to make a motion to approve,
So moved.
thank you. Second, anyone?
Yep, second that.
Thank you, Brian. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So next up is the St. Albans Police Department updates. Come on up, Chief Lamont and Lieutenant Weatherby.
Hello.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. What would you like to know? It's easier for me to ask you than it is for me to go through. Want
Sure, I
staffing?
mean-
What would you like to know?
We sent a few questions.
You did.
So
You
we
did.
Yeah, I mean,
Would you like me to start?
I'm interested in, let's start the street crimes unit
Okay.
and then we'll.
Okay. So as you know, street crimes unit was going to be stood up after July 1st. We have hired the sergeant. He was hired a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so into July. He had to relocate, which he did. He bought a house in our area, not in St. Albans area, but in the Franklin County area. He started 2 weeks ago. So he's, I say up and running, but he's here. He's going through policies and procedures and kind of becoming antiquated with our system. We'll give him a few weeks and then we hoping to open a second position in-house. We're a union shop, so that has to, any position has to open in-house first. Ideally, we would put an officer in there from within. If not, we want to open it outside. That's where it's at.
Anybody have any questions on that?
You want- I can tell you what he's about if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, and especially, I think a lot of us too probably watch the city,
Yep.
the city just had, including myself, and love to hear just that,
Yep.
generally what they're looking for, but also what you think they'll be doing in town.
What are we doing in the town? Yes.
Yeah.
So the street crimes unit is going to be specifically, their goal and their objective and their directive is going to be to deal with the drug problem in our area. And that's what it was, when it went away 3 years ago, and that's what it's going to be now, more so now than it probably was then. It's put an immediate impact on the drug sales in our area, as opposed to the current drug units in the state of Vermont, which do the same thing. However, they tend, from my experience anyway, to concentrate more on the bigger cases, which get a little more drawn out. It can sometimes take 6 months, 8 months, a year to build before they come to fruition, where the street crimes unit historically has been quicker buys, busts, and arrests. And the goal is just to push them out of the area, quite honestly, get arrested and get them out of the area. So that's going to be their goal. The person we hired for this position, his name is Aaron Lefebvre. He comes with 17, 18 years of experience, 9 of which has been in the drug unit. So for the state police. So he's got plenty of experience. He was in it when he came to us. So he's active right up to the day he came. So he has a good amount of experience in it, in the northeast side of the state, but he also traveled as with anybody else with the state police unit. He's been everywhere in the state. So he should hit the ground running. And he knows what our objective is. And then the second person we put in there would be doing the same thing. Ideally, like we said, we'd hire somebody within our department that knows most of the players in this area anyway. In a nutshell, that's what it's gonna do.
So I have a question on it. Will he and whoever else he has with him, will they be concentrating more on the 15 repeat offenders or more on the people supplying?
So exactly. So the 15 repeat offenders that we brought up last week weren't necessarily offenders as much as they are in the context that I use were contacts, meaning we dealt with them 15, those 15 people we made contact with more than anybody else in our system. Doesn't mean they're offenders every time we dealt with them, just means we dealt with them more than anybody else in our system, which is hundreds of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of people. It's the whole thing. And anybody else that we came in contact from wherever else they came from. However, those people a lot of them are drug users, there's no doubt, but there are much bigger drug dealers in our area that we need to concentrate on. If you get rid of the dealers, you're hopefully going to reduce the users or push the users somewhere else. They can't get the drugs here, they're not going to stay here. So ideally, they will be looking at the next level up from the everyday user, but typically to get to the dealer, you have to start with the user. And that's what the drug unit hopefully can do. You have to get somebody to cooperate with you to help get the next level up. Yeah, not sure.
One question on that?
I'm good on that
I
part.
mean, you definitely need a concentrated, dedicated operation to get to this. We just, with the guys and girls on the road in uniform, it's very hard to, especially right now, to dedicate the right amount of time necessary to go after the drug dealer. It's almost impossible. We just don't have the time to do it, to dedicate undercover work especially, and it takes time.
Patrol schedule and setup.
I'll refer to Jason, Lieutenant Weatherby. He is part of the uniform side, lieutenant side, and they deal with, I know they deal with the schedule and how we dictate who goes where.
As far as scheduling goes, they're running 12-hour shifts. That's you're asking about, so they're doing 3 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 on. As far as coverage goes, we're running at a minimum currently 3. Generally in the evening hours, we have like a swing shifter that comes in and will be partial day shift and they work into the night, maybe to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., depending on what's going on. As far as the zone coverage goes, we're just doing a strictly east-west split between the city and the town. So like Main Street, Route 7 is, we either take calls on the east side, or on the west side. And that's your coverage area. The sergeant and the float person to back up. And that's not saying they can't cross the own team. They're not gonna go back somebody else in another area. That's just your area of responsibility for that shift. We're running that minimum staffing. I don't think, well, I know we haven't run short of that. Sometimes we're not the fourth float person, but we do have one person that is going to the full-time academy in February. We have one in the full-time academy now. One that just got off field training. So we're in a pretty good spot as far as numbers go to be able to maintain that above that hopefully in the near future. That's three person.
Yeah. Yeah, ideally, so when we did the budget with all of us, the one budget panel, we were allocated 16 uniform, this is not counting street crimes, or detectives or our admin staff. We were allowed 60 or allocated 16 uniform positions. We hired the 15th person and he hit the road running because he was already certified last week. So we're at 15. The 16th person is currently in the academy. That's where we're at. So we're there if you count her, but she won't be on the road until November.
Which is impressive.
Yeah, we're very pleased where
So
we
we
are.
ramp up
Yes.
over a year.
And we have one person that's deep in the hiring process now. We opened it up again this week, today, for more applications for some people. Go from there. There I have people in our, in the process, I guess you could say, even if we don't need them right now. It takes too long to hire people up as those of you that sat in our panel know, it takes a long time.
So the hot button item is homeless encampments. What can the police do and what can the town do?
So this answer is gonna sound a little odd but we aren't the ones to deal with the homeless encampments, meaning that we aren't looking for them. We aren't going to push them out. That's not our job. That's not, if somebody calls us, I'm just using you as an example. If you call and say, I have a tent on my property, we will help you. If you, to get them off your property, you don't want them there. That's just like anybody else trespassing. But we aren't the ones going from property to property looking for that. That's not, unless we get a complaint, that's not what we're doing. Nor should we do it, nor can we do that, right?
Right.
I can tell you from our knowledge, there are tents out there. They're everywhere. When I say everywhere, I'm talking one tent here, 2 tents there. I mean, we hear a ton about the industrial park. That's a great example. Knowledge as of last week, there's 3 locations in the industrial park road, a total of 4 tents. That's it. But there are people living where they can. The Lemnos Street woods were taken down. I don't know if it's completely down now. As of last week, they're maybe a third of the way down. Prior to that, there was 2 tents in there. So, and we walked that a lot, that particular area. But that could grow and go down. It changes daily. It can change tomorrow. I mean, people are definitely looking for a place to set up. And that's the issue when you have somebody that's unhoused, is they are going to look for a place to go. It's not going to be pretty to look at for those of us that aren't used to it. But doesn't mean necessarily they're in the wrong place. If somebody, and there are landowners, like I said last week's meeting, that don't mind them being there. And we've gotten emails from those landowners saying, we don't want you on our property looking for them. We don't want you moving them. So you have that to contest with. So we've taken a stance as a PD, we will help you if you don't want them on your property. But we aren't going looking for them outside of that, unless we had called to it. If we had called to it, we will go there. We will deal with it. If there's noise complaint, fighting complaint, whatever, we will go. But outside of that, it's more of the city's kind of taking a different approach. And they're kind of helping relocate some people, and that's fine, or however they're doing it, that's fine. But it's more, the town is more in the city's issue. The city has taken kind of the point on that. Where are they? What are they doing with it? And I'm not sure what the town's doing with that, quite honestly, but we'll assist if they have to be moved because of an issue, but we're not taking point on it.
Last question, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sounds like from the meeting, things kind of started to change around May or so. Can you describe just a little bit about how things have changed? Like what exactly is happening? I mean, if you're not on Facebook, maybe you don't see that it appears to be hundreds and hundreds of contacts all the time. Just wondering how it's changed since May. Is it still changing? And then can you talk specifically too about just what kind of changes you're seeing in the town? I mean, it appears that it started a lot of the things started popping in the city because of their the more dense population in the downtown area, but just how is, because this is a community problem, so.
So
Talk a
this is a
little bit about that.
nationwide
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
And it's worked its way everywhere, including here. I would say May, June, yeah, in that area is where we saw a massive uptick. And I say massive, those of you that heard the meeting last week or saw it, we had the numbers. I can go over them real quick, but we're double and triple, some of our case load from last year at this time, using the same time frame, January to August to January, August of this year. And the cases you would expect, retail theft, arrests on warrants, disturbance calls, larcenies from building, larceny from motor vehicle. It's just double and triple the numbers, charges that we're making on people. What changed? I think it's a combination of things. Like I said last week, I think that a lot of the funding went away. I think that, and I'm not blaming everything on free money or free assistance, but when the vouchers came, a lot of people were housed from outside the area. And I'm not talking, outside the state. And I'm not even talking Burlington, talking outside the St. Albans city and town. We're housing St. Albans because we have the hotel space and the building space and the room space. And slowly over the last year, those vouchers have dried up and those people aren't leaving and they're out in the house now. And the resources are in St. Albans city, very close to St. Albans town. I mean, so you're affected, meaning the town is affected by the same people that are doing the same things. It's just not the same extent, like you said, because the population density is not there. St. Albans city is a target rich environment. You can hit 100 cars in 15 minutes walking. That's not the same in the town. Although there are developments in the town that are also feeling the same pain as everybody else with larceny and more vehicles, as are your northern stores feeling the same pain. So what changed? That's the only thing I can attribute it to. I mean, nothing else has changed. The bad side or the downside of what the courts are doing, we could talk about for hours, but that's been that way for a couple of years. Nothing's really drastically changed, except they're getting more backed up than ever. Our charges are up to the roof. VSPs are through the roof. Everybody's through. So the backlog they had 6 months ago is double, triple, quadruple. I mean, they're not getting to these cases. Today in a nutshell is a great example. Or this weekend, we lodged 3 yesterday. Today we had 2 in custody before 8 o'clock. We sat on until 2 before we could even get in court, just to let them release them when we got there. So there's an officer tied up for 6, 7 hours for nothing. And those were both on warrants, which means they didn't go to court the first time. So, or first, second, third, fifth time, whatever it was. So that's our day every single day. We're picking up warrant after warrant after warrant, and we hold them half the day and walk up the door again. So that backlog, I think, is attributing to everything we're talking about here. When you have repeat offenders, literally weekly, if not sometimes daily, it bogs the system. And I don't know, I don't see an end in sight. That's just being honest with you. As far as that court system, I don't know when that's going to catch up. I don't know how it can.
We're 2,000 calls over last year this month.
Yeah.
Over 2,000.
So that's just our agency. So I don't know how they catch up and charge it. I just don't know where that goes. So until they catch up and start slamming down a little bit of discipline, I don't know. Accountability, I don't know where it goes. That's just honest with you. I don't know.
I don't
Arrest people every single day, but until they actually see a judge.
You don't have to go into great detail with this one, but just curious, do you think, I mean, I know because of all the calls you guys have taken and talking about the summer. It's not like you guys aren't doing, your jobs. You're definitely doing that. Is the breakdown more on the judicial system or more on the laws themselves?
So it was interesting last week in the Monday night meeting. I kind of wish she was here, but Deputy State Attorney Diane Wheeler was there, and she was putting some of it on the Department of Corrections, suggesting that they, I don't know if they want to limit, reduce, restrict who goes into jail. So they're putting some pressure on the court systems. I mean, that stuff's all out of our hands. I mean, I know, bail reform was in 2018, which, we can't put bail on somebody unless they're a flight of risk or they're flight of another violent crime. So the crimes we're talking about here that, quite frankly, frustrating everybody behind me, likely are the frustrating, thefts and loitering and trespassing. Those are never going to be considered violent. So those are the bail set $200 max is the highest bail they can set on retail theft. That's it.
$50.
And it's usually $50. So that's what they're setting. But the judge's hands are tied. It's not the judge making that decision. It's a statutory limit that's set by the legislature. So that's a big problem. But who made them who put pressure on them? I don't know. So, but it's not the SA. It's not, I don't even think it's a judge a lot of times. Their hands are tied. Why? I don't know. but change has to happen at some point here. When I started, we joke about this. When I started, I'm in my 25th year now. 20 years of state police, I used to joke, man, we can't arrest anybody. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd go back to 25 years ago any day, because apparently we arrested everybody, just didn't realize it. Now I realize we can't arrest, we aren't, it's frustrating. I don't mean to sound all down and frustrated, 'cause I'm not, because we're still doing the right thing. It's just, we've lost traction when it comes to discipline without an accountability. We've lost it, somewhere here. And it's gonna come back. I mean, these meetings are what's gonna bring it back, so.
How does that affect morale in the office?
They're tired.
They're
They're okay.
Our folks are tired, but you know what, we're really trying to, somebody has to do it, right? And we have to keep grounding, we ground ourselves on a daily basis. And I make sure that everybody's grounded to say, look, we have a job to do, and whether someone else does their job or not is not our problem. We need to do what we need to do every day, as long and tiring as that can be. So chin up, keep on, do what we can to support one another. We do have a ton of support from the community, both communities. And that is huge, for everyone. So, I will be honest, I don't think people are frustrated, but I don't think morale's at an all-time by any means.
Oh, they're just tired.
Yeah. Tired. It's good way to put it, for sure.
But summer is always busiest. August and July, or I'm sorry, August, September. My experience has always been busiest 2 months a year, 25 years. I've still never seen it like these 2 months, but it will slow. The weather up here will force that. Hopefully will force that this year as well.
They're going, I think today's shift report came out with 30 calls. They're talking 30 to 40 calls per shift. So that's 60 to 80 calls a day. Divvy that between 8, 6, 7 officers. That's a lot of follow-up. That's a lot of paperwork. That's a lot of just chasing around. But that's not an excuse by any means. I'm just saying that's where we're at.
The downside of that is proactive work sits back a little bit, but that is what it is, but it's okay. So the message there is like, how are they doing? So we're arresting everything that needs to be arrested is getting arrested. Anything else we're at. Get people in front of the judge when you can, because what we are seeing, which is nice, is in the last 3 months, 2.5, anyway, 2 months, judges are now lodging people that even for low value retail thefts. They're letting us lodge if it's the 7th time they've seen them in a week. And they're doing that. So that's nice. Because they weren't doing that in June and they're doing it now. And it took us pleading with the state attorney, and state attorney literally arguing the judge to get the full.
That's after court hours.
They're doing it. After court hours, but they're doing it on some of them. And I hate to say this, but most of our repeats are females right now. And that means us going to Chittenden County with them. That's okay. I've got to spend an hour driving back and forth for the next 3 days chasing them over and over.
Anybody have any more?
Okay, I know because we've talked before in the past about knowing that sometimes corrections drop folks off at Hannaford, and we've seen almost 2 or 3 cases of folks being dropped off and literally stealing a car and having it found in Winooski or the north end of Burlington. Are there any solutions that we could have offering them a ride back? I mean, my understanding is it's maybe a DUI in Winooski, and Winooski PD brings them up here, kind of like you're saying, bringing folks down to South Burlington. And then the next day being dropped off with an 8-hour wait right up at the Highgate Shopping Center. And if there's been hundreds of them and only 3 have stolen a car, I mean, that's not a high amount, but that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, and I know we can't force them, but is there, would our police department have the
A
capacity?
little better in here,
To back to their,
looking cleaner.
I don't know.
yeah, I don't, well, that would be better, I suppose, but
I'm just gonna get this stuff put away and then I'm done.
Entertainment. Unfortunately.
Mhm.
And then that takes a person off the road in the city end of town, because we're driving somebody back to whatever community they came from. I think this, what you're asking, and this topic and many other topics are so much more than a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's a very deep conversation that's not going to be resolved by something simple like that, unfortunately. It's a good idea.
yeah, just trying to think of what we have.
Yeah, no, it'd be nice if the
Make a
originating
difference, yeah.
department found a ride for them, like, it would be the same for us, we bring out, all females have to go to the Four Seasons Burlington, it's the only female lockup, and so every agency would be responsible, but, no, I understand, and you bring up, that's a great point, that's exactly what happens, when correctional center brings a van up in the morning, somebody get lodged and is now released, they drop them a Hanford or Price Sharp, Market 31. What they wore when they went in is what they wear when they walk out, so if it's no shoes, no shirt, that's what they're walking out in, and middle of the parking lot, so it's definitely not ideal for them or us or the patrons that are there that day. That is the way it's been since I can remember, years and years. Department of Corrections, apparently they don't have any way to get anybody anything. It'd be nice if at least they were given some type of financial assistance to get in a cab, bus. Now we have bus running to get somewhere, but that's another thing.
Is there anything that, I mean, obviously, I'm just thinking of, you know, being at your house and having someone on your front porch and especially when you're looking at them holding your daughter's bicycle or something, you know, takes a lot not to get angry and take action. And obviously, we know that's not the best way to do it. I know you guys have mentioned doing a neighborhood watch, which we should announce the time on that, but what should folks do? I mean, I've heard you guys say, and I know in our private conversations, get video, make sure to send it in every time, even if it's not working. You talk a little bit about what they should do and what's happening with it. I mean, is it worth people
the video?
taking the time to
Absolutely.
send it in?
So the video is awesome for every agency, but for us with what's going on right now, it's instrumental because the same female that's hitting the houses behind, for everybody behind me, the same female that's hit 16 other houses at night. And I'm just doing female because that is what we're seeing right now for whatever reason. And that clothing they have is, they only have so much clothing and it's the same ones. And we're tying in multiple cases and those are multiple charges. It makes a big difference. We hope it makes a big difference to the court because we're sending down multiple charges and it's helping build cases. And just because you've got the video on your house right next door, you don't have any video, we can still show the pattern down through and we can link it together. So it's very important. We're getting a lot of that now. People are really sending video every day and it's very good. And we all know what they look like. Just because we didn't see it, didn't stop it, you didn't stop it. We all know just from, honestly, we know how just a lot of them walk now. It's been that common. So it's very helpful to us. It's very, very helpful. It's very important.
Great for the intel. The amount of intel that we do have is like the chief said, pretty crazy. And we distribute that throughout the department. We'll put it on the drive. And then just like I said, we can link things that way. Oh, I get 10 videos in the last 2 weeks. That's the same person built that case.
And we had a store burglary that was solved based on the clothing used on a car retail car theft out of a vehicle. Just from the clothing makes a big difference. Yeah, it's important, very important. Video is our friend for every place. Makes a big difference.
The other thing too that's important that it's hard for me to grasp sometimes too is that we have to take a little bit of our own step to secure our stuff. You know, lock the doors in your vehicle, take the stuff out of your vehicle.
Yeah.
You have an open porch. No, I'm not saying this to be rude. I'm just saying like if you can take some of those valuables off the porch. You know, lock the porch door, whatever those are. Try to lock up. Try to secure your property because if it's not tied down in some cases, they're gonna take it, regardless whether it's a gas grill or parachute.
I mean, they're walking all night. You gotta put, I'm not saying empathetic to what's going on right now, but they're walking all night long. They have no place to be. So they're looking for opportunity. And up to my knowledge, and I feel pretty correct, I don't think we had a broken window yet in the car. Still, which knock on wood, help us with stars, but not yet. We watch video after video after video every single morning. If they tried these 10 cars and every one of them, it's 2 seconds, they walk up, hit your car and go right on to the next one. So hopefully that continues at least, but they're just looking for opportunity and they're hitting it. So
Have you heard of any cases of anyone entering a home?
no, we talked about that just recently. Businesses, we had a string. Oh, well, this is a little bit of a story. We had a string, one female. I think we ended up with 4 charges on her, Olivia, and she was released and she did one today, another one. So, and another count of robbery. She did 4 businesses while they were open. Robberies with us. We lodged her, she got out and she did another one in another county today. So didn't get held anyway. So,
And on something like that, I mean, I was gonna ask you, like, how many positive IDs of trying to get into a car would lead to something? I mean, a robbery? Do you say armed
she
robbery?
did,
Is that
so
something?
they're strong arm robberies. This female particular one is using no, give me your money, I have a weapon, but not showing weapon.
Gotcha.
She did 4 of them here in our area. Like I said, we lodged her, and then she just did another one in Lamoille County this morning. Don't spend any time in jail, you're gonna keep going.
So what's up? Like you said, you had an east and west patrols. So what's it look like? I mean, when you come down around here, you go like out in the farm and back up.
Well, I think to be quite honest here, with you, it's a nice little reprieve for some of our folks. We like to go down to the halfway point, we like to go
Back
down
camp roads.
to the state park. We like to travel the back roads and talk to some of the residents if they're out. So they're poking in and out where I really get the opportunity, for sure. It's not a set route like, every time. It's left to the discretion of the individual officer.
The reason you break any area up is so that they generally are closer to respond if they're in that general area, and it kind of makes it somewhat equitable. So they're not, if you leave it up to like rotating calls, it never seems to work out. So that way, it's kind of equitable.
I have a question. What can be done to address the drug use in the streets?
So we talk about this quite regularly, because you just saw one today on the tonight, literally 6:15 on the way down. So we chase those all day long as well. Like this person I'll use the word appears, but appears to be shooting up. That's kind of the common one. I will say more than 9 times out of 10, I'd say 75% out of 100, because that's how many times we get called. By the time we're there, they're packed up, moving on, or already gone, or nodded off. All we have now is an empty needle, and that's it. But likely they're gone completely because they don't stay there. We'll respond, but there's not much you can do. If you get there, likely we get stonewalled by them, which means they're not talking to us, which means we have no proof of what they did. We can reasonably suspicion all day what they did. We have no proof. There's nothing left on them. There's nothing left in there, and whatever needle they may have had, that's now amongst the other needles on the ground. So it's more of just a move them along type situation. But the rampant drug use is everywhere, and it's once it's in their system, you can't charge somebody possession for what's in their system. If I come up to you and you're completely impaired and on drugs, there's no charge for that. There's no criminal charge for that. So there's nothing we can do legally for them.
Anybody else have any questions?
So are we like first in the county?
In the county,
Well, that's a matter of perspective, right?
I would say
We
we're
are
the hub.
24-hour coverage, and we're getting the calls. When there's an agency that's covering your town, you're gonna call. If there's not an agency covering your town, you're gonna get frustrated and you're not gonna call. So I think it's always been an issue we've contended with is we're here all the time and we're able to respond to those things. I would say, if you know what you're looking for and you drive through Eastburg or Richford or Berkshire and any certain areas and times of day, I can see, on a given day when I drive through, at least one person I recognize from being in the city. So they're traveling around, folks are traveling around. You know, the perception could be that, for sure, by virtue of what I just spoke. So, you know, the other thing too is we do have a very involved community. You know, Facebook can be your best friend or your worst nightmare. Because like the old phone tree game from kindergarten, right? You know, it starts out with someone walks by that looks suspicious, and the next thing you know, they were in my house stealing my dog. You know, and then when you confront that and follow up on it, it's like, oh no, I don't. So I only say that to just just be cautious on what you're posting out there and take things with a grain of salt. If you do have a concern, you'll call us and say, have you got a report of this, or call the police. You know, I can't think of how many times I've got to complain about, you know, the 30, 40 tents on her. We've been up, Kelly Vians goes through on a very regular basis. People use those trails all the time. And if there's something popping up, someone's gonna call, usually within 10 minutes. So that is inaccurate, but still has, you know, legs and going around the community. So I just say err on the side of caution when you're utilizing and viewing social media. That goes with everything, okay?
You mentioned the 15, I don't want to say repeat offenders, you're saying people with the most contacts, and
Yep.
if I remember correctly, you said 2/3 or 10 of them are St. Albans folks,
10.
and
Yeah.
about 5 are outside or in, other places in the county, outside the state. Has that changed over time, or is that what it was, say, a year ago or in May? Is that changed?
I never ran it back then because I didn't really have a reason to, because I don't think we were dealing with the same people as often. Well, we were, but I don't think the numbers were as high. So, I don't know. this just came to light or hit me as coming to light, and I think the rest of the admin was because the same names were just so repetitive over the rest of the people we deal with regularly. And again, I kind of caution you not to use name offender, but they were coming to my mind because we were dealing with, one of them, the females, if I brought the name up, everybody here was like, oh yeah, I remember her 'cause she was hitting cars every single night, or retail thefts every single day, sometimes 3 times a day for a while. So that's what made it run. So they are a lot of our offenders, but their numbers are just crazy high. Was it like that a year ago? I really don't think it was, but not to that number anyway. And even these names, the top, I would say the top, at least 5 of them, I don't know if I even knew the names a year ago. So why, I don't know. Is it massive craving for drugs? Potentially, they're 5 people that are drug users, for sure. But they were, right now, of those 5, 4 of them are currently incarcerated, so good. That's why we haven't dealt with one of them, we just saw him way down. So.
Just thinking of and I'd heard that too about Hardak, and then people up there's not really much there, not what it seems like was reported. I'm thinking of both of the elementary schools,
Yeah, I
of
can
course,
click
are
on that.
right on the border, and they're wooded areas in the town. My son goes to town school, my parents live just in the city. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have reported it, but he came home, and of course I told him, don't walk through the cemetery, walk around for now. He's always walked through the cemetery for the last
Yep.
several years, never been an issue. He walked through the other day, and there's a couple people camping in the cemetery. Maybe it was nothing, maybe it was. Can you just talk just a little bit about, if anything, you found around the
Yep.
schools, and of course,
So,
the town school is also right next to Grace Brook as well, so.
I know the town school, their safety officer, walks that twice a day, beginning of school, not, and sometimes. after.
Walks the wooded
They-
area?
yeah,
or
apparently
just
they have a
stuff
trail
like-
system.
Yeah, there are some
Drive.
cross-country trails and
And
stuff.
they haven't had any camping there, but allegedly just out of their trail system, there is some type of tent back there, but it's not on their property, so nobody's been back there. And we haven't had any complaints on it, we have. The city school one was removed on Friday. And there was one singular tent that was on the city school property. They took it down in the city school. I don't know if it was their safety officer, or who it was, but they removed it on Friday. But that was west of their property, off the soccer field in the woods. So that one's gone. So that one did exist and it's gone. Those are the only ones that we know of on anywhere near the school. Well, I say near, that was on school property in the town allegedly, but like I said, we haven't been called up there and we haven't walked up there, and I don't think my knowledge, the school has neither. As long as it's not in their property anymore.
There's some encampments here that I can think of one on the top of my head that has been here the 19 years I've been.
Mhm.
And
And
it's
one-
sporadic issue. They kind of police their own, but now there's a hypervigilance about it, that now all these little spots that may have 1 or 2 that have been there for some years, maybe haven't either, but it's like the chief mentioned earlier, it's if we go to a property and they're fine, they're on my property, you can't do anything. It's hard for us to tell everyone else that's house is 50 yards away on the other property that has to watch them bathe. There's not a lot we can do, but that's kind of some of the issues we're contending.
Yeah, there's definitely one in Cam that's been here all of my time. Like he said, 19 is years, my whole time, 25 years it's been here.
Ask one more about it.
Sure.
Anything, any reports of anything I'm just thinking of our town land, town forest, Bay Park, Cullen Park, any issues at all?
No, so I drive in every day by Cullen Park and and I'd say half my days I drive by the Bay Park. And I mean, both those, I never see anything going on in those, which is nice. Last year, this time, we had a couple of vehicles parking at the Bay Park that were unhoused. They've moved on. I don't see anything going on. Like I said, every single day I go through there. And no, I mean, the town in general, we've had a fair number of calls, some pretty decent calls, as far as important calls that, arrests, but then nothing stands out as being like a town issue. They're more just personal calls. I mean, it's been relatively good. Traffic, I would say, is one of your issues, like everywhere else. People are exceeding speed limit. That's a fact, no doubt about it. We've thrown the speed spy up in a couple of places just to get some real true data where nobody knows where it's not the speed car. It's a tool we have that doesn't show, so nobody knows it's there. And it gives us an idea of what the traffic's actually doing, as opposed to people guessing. And we'll use that data and then we'll direct patrol based on that data. But that's really the only thing we're seeing in the town right now. I mean, the town in my history before PD had it years ago, and before the sheriff sat back when I was a trooper and 25 years ago covering the town, I mean, it's kind of had, it's changed in the fact there's a lot more traffic because of the amount of residents that live there. But it's kind of remained the same. It's the domestics, you get occasional burglary, it's the speeding, it's the accidents. You know, we had the fatal crash up in Barracks. We took that. It's that level of crime. But now, yeah, the stores is a big increase. That wasn't there when I was there 25 years. They're just starting. And Walmart came, since that's a huge call for service for us. It's daily, every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. That's fine, but that's just what it is. But generally speaking, that's what we're dealing with in the town. It's more the quality of life type stuff, and that's fine. The unhoused are gonna touch it on that end of town by the stores, and they're gonna touch it in the industrial park. Other than that, the drugs are gonna touch it everywhere, because that's what the people shopping for drugs live in the town, just like you live in Richford, just like you live in Burlington, just like wherever. So they're gonna come to house and buy the drugs, and that's what we need to stop. It's gonna affect us all, and you know, and the fatals and stuff come along with all that, so.
Anybody else have any other questions? John? Yeah? Okay. So we'll take comments from the public. If you can come up, state your name.
You want this going over?
We have an extra one. Let me get this one here.
He's helping me out. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm Janet Seymour, and I have, well, my farmhouse is on Swanton Road, not that far from Walmart and all those shopping places, good God. But I have farmland across the road, and I've gotten 2 reports from people that people are camping out under the trees there. And I don't want them there. The farmer is raising corn in that land, and there are wetlands below it, so who's ever camping out has access to water in the area, to a lot. So, I've reported it to you. Is there, what happened? Is there a way that covering land like that in the town that you guys
Yep,
could check on it?
as long as you can, if somebody's talked to them, ask them, as long as they've been asked to move, we can go down and help.
I can't walk the farmland. I have a farmer farming it.
Yep.
He hasn't reported it. I'm physically unable to walk that.
Yep.
If there's some way that somebody can check it out and.
It'll be a low priority because of all the calls, but if you have something, it'd be easier if somebody went and asked it. Then we're covered better, we can actually arrest them if that happens. If somebody's asked them to move and they refuse, then we have an arrest, but otherwise, we're just going and ask them to leave,
Well,
which is what we try to put
Main
back on
Street
the land.
Storage is right next door.
Yep.
To my area. And have you found, Mike, have you found stuff happening in your area from people?
Oh, yeah, so Jan,
Okay,
so
one
I-
person
I-
commenting.
so I'm gonna just set a couple rules. I forgot to mention them. So we're gonna keep comments to 3 minutes.
Okay,
That's
I can
typically our rule.
focus.
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying, and then we're not gonna like talk back and forth to the audience.
I see.
You can direct it to us. And if the chief wants to answer, he can.
The short is, we can absolutely help you, but we can't, I'm not trying to dismiss it, we just can't spend time walking around looking for them. If you can pinpoint
It's
them
under
and they
the
refuse to
trees,
leave,
tree
we
area.
will help you, but we just can't walk around discriminately looking for them, because we have a
No.
lot of calls about tents that aren't there. when
There are
we-
no tents. They're camping out under the
Gotcha.
tree area only.
Gotcha.
From what I've heard.
I would say try to find some way to at least ask them to leave. If they refuse, then do absolutely no. Then they are trespassing. At this point, nobody's asked them to leave. They're just there. They're trying to find.
If I post a sign or
Yep.
something on the property, no,
As long as we know they see. That's
that would do it.
Yeah. If, I will say this, to everybody knew, if you post trespassing signs, they need to be legally posted, which means they have to be seen on the fork side.
No,
I'm just saying for the law.
there's not fencing or anything.
That's the stuff
No.
we come back with the state's attorneys.
Right, it's, I'm not giving our it's just all the stuff that they hit us with.
Okay,
Because otherwise, everything we did and to attempt and the rest. ends up all for nothing.
okay, but worst case scenario, you guys can't ask them to leave unless you
It'd be
guys.
nice if we had something, because if they come back with it, it'd be nice if we had some, went and there was some, said, you've already been asked, so they can refuse them. Then they're denying our lawful order, then gives us a lot more grounds.
That answers that one. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Jan.
Okay.
Evening, my name is Morris Reno, I live in the town of Albans.
Good evening.
I got a question on this task force. You're gonna have two gentlemen
Yes.
working for the city on the crime and drugs. They're gonna be up here. Are you gonna utilize like the sheriff departments, the state police and other law enforcement who have the same expertise?
Sheriffs don't have anybody in the unit, but the state police have a unit, yes.
Because their investigations are gonna take them into other towns,
Yeah.
counties and all of this stuff.
Yeah, first, fortunately enough, we've been able to experience this in years past, and we've been very fortunate to have cooperation, a lot of cooperation with everyone from the ATF, DEA.
They're gonna need it.
Police. Oh, yeah, no, understood for sure. And actually, those conversations have already been, the skids have been greased on some of those things, and it's for sure.
I got another question. When did the contract start with the St. Albans Police Department?
July 1st, 2024.
And what was the amount of that contract, money wise?
It changed, it'll likely change, but for us it's about 2.5
$2.5
million.
And when you get the contract, did you hire any more officers to take on the workload?
Absolutely.
How many?
I mean,
Be 4 uniform and 2 street crime, 6.
They're on board now.
Yes. Well, 1 in the academy.
Okay, so you did hire. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's
I'm gonna-
1 street crime.
Yeah, you with the
1 more
glasses.
street crime, that's 300.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the gentleman who we've hired was up in the kind of the northeast area.
That's it, was his area for
Right,
his
and
drug task
and
force.
he was in with a lot of different.
Yeah, he was a
states,
state
correct?
police
So-
task force.
so he's used to doing
His
that,
travels,
right? Yeah.
and a lot of pieces get picked up federal.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Hungerford from, town of St. Albans. First of all, I want to thank the officers for everything they do in the area. This is a problem that's all over the country. But it's hit our hometown, and that's why we're here. And, I have concerns. I have some property up here, Janet, up on North Main Street. We have a commune behind our place. It's been there for several years. But it's gotten out of hand recently. We've kind of tolerated them before. But we're seeing them in the dumpsters every day, and the people that are in our plaza and that have rights to our dumpster are afraid to go out there, especially after hours when we start. So it's got to the point now where I'm here. I have Sean Brock here with me, and he's in the plaza, and he sees this activity daily. He's taking videos of it. There's drug deals going on down there now. There's cars coming and going behind our plaza. And it's come to a head to the point where I need to do something. And I need the town's help. I need police force help to hopefully get us in a place where we can get this under control. So that's the reason I'm here tonight. To let you know, there's a problem out there in our plaza, and we need help. The other thing is that the commune that's behind us is in the city. It's on the Fonda property. So the city owns the land. And they have owned it ever since they bought Fonda. So they're the landowner. I have contacted the city before about different things that have happened out there, and it's gone nowhere. So I don't physically have any homeless people on my property living there, but they're going through our property daily. They're going through our dumpsters. They're all over the place now. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks.
On up.
My name is Kelly Graham, and I do live in the town. I live right by the industrial park. I have some questions pertaining to the industrial park. Who owns the industrial park currently? Or is it leased and owned property?
I believe
Both,
various owners throughout the park.
So if you have an owner that is refusing to get rid of an encampment that isn't quite behind their business, but butts up against other people's houses, how do you go about that when initially he was on board to removing them? And now that they're back, it seems like it's changed. Now he cannot see it. What my view is, I have trash that is being left and blown on my side. What do I do with that? Do I pick it up and go bring it back to the person that owns the land?
That's, I don't think, like, that's not really in the town's purview, the word, like, that's kind of a civil dispute, I would say.
Well,
If
that's
you
an
have a bad-
industrial park thing, and I can't get anybody to answer any questions as far as the industrial park situation. I mean, the longer it goes on, the more people are gonna be like, hey, you know, they're not doing anything with the industrial park, so let's go move in there. And I know there's several people, and I'm not saying that homeless people are not citizens. There is a homeless man back there that does work. He works. He works in the most pivotal manufacturing place in the industrial park. And people that it's budding up to also works at the same place. So there's a conflict of interest. We all want to band together. But how do you go to work knowing that you're trying to kick out somebody who's behind your house? Not to mention, there are cars that pull. People run in and out, flashlights at all times of the night. Okay, you can hear it, you can see it. They're screaming, they're throwing stuff in the brook, they're burning garbage. They're also, using that as a bathroom and as a bathing spot. So it is intrusive to the neighbors around. And these guys are familiar with what I'm talking about. Also, as far as the clothing aspect, I find that a very false statement. Because people leave stuff on the side of the road free or pick up or whatever. And thieves are pretty smart. They're gonna go and pick up clothes, put different clothes on. And just leave those clothes everywhere. And it is literally trashing our town. What do we do about that? That's my first concern. The homeless people is my other concern. There's children that walk up and down those streets. My other concern that nobody touched on was the sexual activity that was happening in the park and in the parking garage. No one touched on that, and that's very concerning, especially when you have children leaving VFA to go get into their cars. And they have to pass two men that were masturbating in the park. That is not what we stand for. We are supposed to be a cohesive community. We have a little tiny line that's somehow dividing us, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be working together. I'm sure somebody else, well, I don't have a homeless encampment. And when you do, I'm sure you're probably gonna have a different view. I don't wanna pick up trash every day. I don't wanna pick up bottles, I don't wanna pick up needles, I don't wanna pick up dirty papers, I don't wanna do that. That's not why I pay my tax, that's uncalled for. So I feel beneficially, we do need to use our resources better as far as the sheriffs and the state police. The sheriffs do a lot of transporting back and forth for jails.
Kelly, I'm gonna interrupt real quick. Can you wrap it up, please? You're pushing it.
I do know that they
Thank you.
use a lot of transportating for jails and stuff, so they can actually use them to transport people to Burlington, so they could stay here. So that is a resource that is being unused. Yeah, my big concern is, well, I have a lot of concerns, but I would really like the encampment behind in the industrial park to be taken care of. I would like the drone to go up and actually see
Okay.
exactly what is going on, how many are there, what is going on. Foliage season's gonna start coming, we're gonna be losing the leaves, and we're gonna start seeing all of this stuff. And people are gonna be like, holy shit. It's gonna be too late. And our drug problem did not start just a year ago.
Okay, Kelly, I'm gonna shut you off right there.
I'm just gonna name one name, we all know, Roger from Northeast Kingdom. I'm glad he's gone out of this town. But he was the beginning of it.
Kelly, you had your time. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Come on up, John.
I'm Sean Brock, I'm in Brock's Heating, and I'm out in, Tom's property, I have space at Tom's property. I've got some decent videos, I'm sure folks have seen it, we've got, we've got people that are defecating behind my dumpsters, we've got people that are going in and out through there, and it's pretty routine, I've had a couple of things stolen. To some, it's not a big deal, it's a barrel, but, it's stuff we do use for work, so it's affecting us there. Myself, my office staff, and we've got two people, or another staff office next to us, they're afraid to leave their doors unlocked. So during the day, it is affecting us in that particular location. So if there's anything we can do, folks need a place to go, and we do see that, we know that, but it's definitely affecting the way we're running businesses and stuff like that. So, but that's all. Thank you.
Sean. Come on up, Jen.
I'm Dr. Jennifer Williamson, and I live in the town, and I would love for the select board to call for their former select board member who works for Vermont Department of Health to talk about the fact that this Thursday, more homeless people are being kicked out of shelter, and they will continue to be kicked out of shelter for the next few months until they're allowed to go back in. And when they go back in, there's going to be fewer beds to stay in. So it's going to be a bigger problem. We have so many people who are disabled. We have children, we have elderly, and every time they're out looking for places to stay, we have people complaining because they're in tents. So I would love for the select board to address the fact that this is coming and it's going to be worse.
Thanks. Anybody else for a comment? Come on up, Tom.
A general question, what is that Narcan facility that's out on South Main Street? Has that been something that enables these drug users to get their fix legally?
Is that the
Come up, Bart.
bar?
It's not a safe injection site.
Okay, what is it?
Linda might be able to explain it,
Yeah.
because that's,
Art.
yeah,
Yeah.
based on her knowledge, it's not a safe injection site.
So the BART clinic is a part of the hub and spoke model, so they're a hub that provide medication assisted treatment to people that need treatment for opioid use disorder. While they may distribute Narcan, that's separate from the treatment that they're doing Narcan as part of a harm reduction approach. No, the BART clinic, they have medical professionals that prescribe medications treatment for the opioid use disorder. And just to clarify, that's for opioid use disorder, so they don't have a treatment modality or medication for stimulant use disorder like cocaine, methamphetamine. It's specific to opioid use disorder. Treatment modality for stimulant would be so yeah, they're a treatment provider.
That question does often.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that has become a magnet for Franklin County, bring these people in to use those facilities.
No, there has been, especially since the changes in medication prescribing in 2018, there's been a huge increase of medical providers that can prescribe medication assisted treatment. It's easier for people to access than ever. So I mean, medication assisted treatment is available in a number of different locations in St. Albans itself and in Franklin County. So they're one of they're the only hub, they're the only organization that can prescribe methadone. But there's a number of other medication assisted treatment providers, so. It is.
Do you feel that facility's had any impact at all on the amount of people that we're seeing here becoming homeless and becoming drug addicted?
I think it has supported in reducing overdose for opioids. I think that they are an important piece of what we do in the community to help people struggling with substance use. I'm not gonna pretend to know exactly what's going on with each individual that is struggling to obey the law until I sit down with them one-on-one, but I think that we sometimes combine everything and say, well, it's homelessness, it's substance use, and the reality is there's no blanket statement for it, so people are struggling with substance use, not necessarily at a higher rate than we've ever seen, but with more potent substances than we've seen. And, there's been legalization of marijuana.
I work in the emergency department, I see more people that have drug-induced psychosis, and it's not only from stimulant use, but it can also be from marijuana. People that, so the challenge is there's no blanket statement to answer all those questions, but I'd be happy to chat with you all.
Yeah,
Outside of a meeting to share more information.
well, thank you for that information, but, I was wondering if you could chat with the chief and see if you got the same people that you're treating, and he's trying to corral, and, it just.
Yeah, he calls me over to the barracks, on the regular to try to help me, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering that.
I'm gonna just give a quick 2 cents. I think all of this, the topics that we're discussing, we're all discussing as individual communities. And we're all looking for that answer, right? This has been a problem that's developed over a decade or decades. And the problem lies at a very much a higher level of government, where our money is being allocated, what programs need to be, bolstered, what programs don't need to exist. And that's the trickle down effect that now you and us and everybody sitting in here has to deal with. So the fix is not going to be an extra cop. It's not going to be an extra treatment. Removing Martha's Kitchen. It's not going to be removing whatever else it is. It's so much deeper than that, and it's going to be a hard grasp for all of us. Hopefully, it's some avenue or mechanism for the large quantity of people to see that. It's going to take time. If that makes any sense whatsoever, but I think that's
Hello, Heather Kelly, Cal resident. We talk a lot about the problems and the things that make us angry, but we seem to forget that these are people. These are community members. They are our neighbors, they're our family. And I know that a lot of people don't want to think of it. A lot of times they are our children. So they're people. So if trash in your yard is an issue, send me a message. Pick it up on Sunday. But these are people, so they're not strangers. They're neighbors.
Anybody else? Kelly, I'll let you go real quick.
Are you guys seeing the change in drugs that are being used versus what was being mentioned at the methadone clinic?
it changes like the weather.
Yeah, there's some new drugs.
Yeah.
Is why the that center was open. For the drug that they wanted.
Yeah, there's synthetic drugs now that are a real problem.
Correct, so have you seen the different types of drugs in our county?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How are you able to defend those and educate us on what those drugs are? And if we see somebody who is bent over in the street, how do we know, what do we do with that aspect?
That's the synthetic drugs. And those are here, and those are sweeping the country, and they're very inexpensive to buy, they're in very high demand, and they're everywhere. Those are the ones that we're getting called to, probably the one most often. And unfortunately with that, there's no detox in it. What happens with that, the stuff that we pick that person up, or Amcare does, they go to the hospital, they're cleared medically, picked out the door. That's the same.
Right, and just in general. Has anybody thought about getting a homeless center open bigger?
That's not our question. No.
Would you be willing to maybe tribute to the city and come together as one and build a homeless shelter for these people?
I don't think.
Or a rehab center?
I just want to, the city was very clear, that's it's definitely a state issue, something that needs to be funded. I know a shelter with a lot of beds, which would be a great idea. I think would be way past our budget, so that's something, because we got to remember there's so many different pieces with this, right? I've been really trying to wrap my head around and learn too. And we also have the state that needs to help, and it's a federal issue too. You know, we've got all these pieces. I'm trying to learn to figure out what's the best way to do it. There's only so much we can do as a town. I mean, but if we work together, I mean, one of the, I think two things that we have going for us that maybe we didn't a year or two ago is we have a common police department now with the city, because whether we like it or not, we are one community. St. Albans City and St. Albans Town are St. Albans. We're one community. But the fact that we have a single police department, we also have, I think, a better relationship with the city than we had. So like when Sean Brock was talking about that, it's like, that's common, right? And it's part of the issues in the city, part of it's in the town. I mean, I think this is another case where we should be working with the city as closely as possible. I know they have a public safety committee. I mean, if the select board is to do, we should maybe touch base with them to see if we can have a part with that, if they think it would be beneficial. And of course, our select board thinks it'd be beneficial for communication, not to make any decisions. But yeah, and we also need to involve our state legislators. That's a huge portion of it. That's where the money is, right? For something big like that. I just think there's so much to learn with it. And I wish there were the resources around. And the more I've learned, we do have a lot of resources right in the city. I'm not sure we have enough, or maybe we have too much of some things. I know, you know, and this has touched everyone, whether you've had someone in your yard or it's you yourself or your family member. My daughter's mom needed help 15 years ago, and there was no beds available. She's gone now. You know, those things have touched a lot of us. Right. And so they are people. These are people. They need help. There needs to be balance. Maybe needs to be tough love. Right. Maybe there needs to be tough love. Maybe that's part of the rule. You know, what would have saved, you know, a family member for us is maybe if someone, you know, stepped in and made her do something. You know, I don't know what the answer is, but we're definitely trying to learn that. I know we're not going to solve it here tonight. If it was solved everywhere, there'd be a book about it and we'd all be reading it. Right. So we do need to come around. The questions are great. But we don't have the answer. Are we going to be able to build a multi-million-dollar shelter in the town? Probably not. But if we work with our legislators, maybe that's something we can do.
Well, something will be done. I mean, we're in northern Vermont. 60 days from now, it's gonna be cold. Yeah. Something's going to change in the next 60 to 75 days because we're gonna freeze. I'm sure we will, but people have to stay warm. And I appreciate the comment about, these are people. They're people with issues that I don't. But they're definitely people valued in our society, and they are valued, and they're in a very difficult spot for sure. It's not a matter of whether or not the town will. You know, it's like you said, it's a big issue, but we don't even really have a target on the wall to shoot, because it's just, it's such a broad issue in our society. Drugs, it's mental illness, it's all kinds of things. People down on their luck, and how do you fix it? And so I'm sure that the town would love to be involved in a conversation about how to do that. I think as a town, as citizens, we need to do that. But I will say that it's going to be cold and you can't get away from it. And so people are the state's gonna have to open up places for folks to go, or the problem's gonna get worse. So.
For all the hard work that people do. I don't know. Things that you haven't seen. Thank you for that. And I do appreciate all the hard work that you are trying to do. I believe that the future for you.
Thank you, Kelly.
You know, back in the day, and I'm not way before my time, every town of any size had a poor farm. And these people that we're talking about back then were housed there and they worked and got a meal and had a roof over their head. I know there was one here in our town. Most of the larger towns, you had a poor farm. And people that were on the street, they got to go there. You know, maybe, of course, in this day and age, that's going to be a whole lot larger scale than it was back then. But maybe we took better care of each other back then.
Come on, Nick, go ahead. Yeah, come on
I
up.
saw the comment up there about being close to the mic, so I want to respect that.
Thank you.
A couple of things that come to mind for me, because I like to be like solution focused, is that there are some things that already happen in our communities that I think that I know a lot of people aren't aware of, but they're great opportunities to learn about what are the services that are being provided and where are the opportunities to learn about them and to have a voice. So the Franklin Grand Isle Community Partnership meets monthly. It's the first Wednesday of each month. It's at NCSS. Also, it's a hybrid model. The meeting itself is from 9 to 10:30, and every June and December we earmark for our legislators. So we have like a presenter each month, but in June and December, our legislators join us. So that's a great opportunity for people to be able to have a voice. It's not only for providers. And also it's a fairly structured meeting that there's not a ton, we keep to a schedule, to an agenda, but if people wanted to go or even observe it, like Northwest Access TV, they have recordings of this meeting. And if people from the community are interested in learning about like, what is the Howard Center? What is the Bart Clinic? What is the Turning Point? We have presenters each month so they can go back in the archive and look at, who is the presenter or what did the meeting in this past June look like with our legislators? So that Franklin Grand Isle Community Partnership is a great opportunity. And that's where a lot of us partners come together. There's also, it just passed, unfortunately, but our annual Substance Use Addiction Summit that Brad Ferlin and I started a few years ago, the whole reason we started that was for what we're hearing now, because this is not new. It's just more visible, but it's not new. So we did have Chief Lamothe and I have presented on the partnerships here with mental health crisis workers, the work that we do in partnership. We've had Commander Prouty with Project Vision from Rutland. So, and we also have, just to mention, how do we deal with somebody that we care about that's struggling with addiction? We got Maureen Kavanaugh from out of state who wrote a book about her journey through her daughter's addiction. And how do we learn, is it tough love? Is it enabling? And it's really, even as much as she wants to teach, well, here's what you do. Each person is different. Each dynamic is different. Every family is different, but she helps give at least some scientific data associated with what family members go through, because the same part of the brain is triggered in the amygdala and the fear, just as a person struggling to get substances. So I think the more that we learn and educate about how it scientifically affects us, as whether it's people struggling or people who care for people struggling and those that get frustrated. I'm not in the business of co-signing criminal behavior. I work with people struggling with addiction. I will give them love and support, but I'm not in the business of co-signing and participating in dysfunctional behavior. If you're doing it, we separate it. We separate the actions from the person and love the person, support the person, but that doesn't mean that we approve that behavior. So it's really learning how to separate, how to support, and knowing that it's not about the substance. It's really the social matrix. It's the socioeconomic, like, does that person have anybody in their life that they can call that is a healthy, balanced human? So it's social connectedness. It's poverty. Do they have access to food? If somebody is supposed to come and do some planning on their future with me, and we're going to try to get them a job and their pants are on fire, then I'm going to sit and help them get that fire out. Like they haven't eaten for 2 days. We're not going to go on a job hunt today. We're going to get you some food. So there's really it is such a complicated scenario. And yet I think the more that the community can come together, I'm thinking of National Night Out. There's valuable service providers are there holding tables. And I think sometimes that's a missed opportunity for community members to say, okay, I see the health department, I see voices, I see some, but to take the time, like, what exactly do you guys do? What do you offer? What do you see? How can I help? And I've seen a number of members step up since the public safety meeting, Trudy, a number of people that came to our summit because they realized we have 91 organizations. Like 91 organizations at the Champlain Valley Expo sharing about all of this. The goal is, how do we survive with substance use, mental health crisis, with crime, how do we respond and how do we support it? Because we know how to complain about it. I'm guilty of that at times too. And also, how do we support and be part of the solution? And I just want to shout out to Heather and the group that Sunday morning went and started the cleanup. Like, those are the ways we can help. Is it fair? It's not my needle on the ground. Well, if I'm walking on Main Street and I see a coffee cup on the ground, I'm not gonna go and try to beat the person that put it there. I wish they would pick up their stuff, but the reality is I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna move on because complaining doesn't help. So I think the more that we can use all that energy towards being a force for good, the better things are gonna turn out. Like, it's okay to be ticked off and pick up the garbage ticked off. We don't have to like it, but I think just, so again, there's a lot of resources if people want to reach out to me. We can share more. I know that we're working on stuff in the community about bringing more of the information about the services that are provided to members of the community. As service providers, we spend a lot of time together and talking to each other, but we got to get more creative on how to feed it out to the community. So just a few plugs, and especially the partnership meeting. I would encourage anybody on select boards and municipalities and all that stuff to attend those. Thanks.
Thank you, Maureen. Okay, anybody else in the audience for public comment? Okay, anybody on Zoom? They like to make a public comment? Okay. Hearing none, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant, for coming tonight.
Okay, I'll leave you with this, just as always, you're pretty good about reaching out to us if we need something. It goes for all of you. And we don't, there's some problem or an issue or misconception, we don't know about it, we can't fix it, so. We're still pretty new in this relationship, so let us know if you need it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Lieutenant Weatherby, when's the neighborhood watch meeting?
October 2nd, 5:30 at City Hall.
October 2nd, 5:30 City.
Thank you.
Beth. It's on our Facebook page.
Thank you. You want to come from?
This is just.
I can hear you.
It was open to the city.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's see. Coach and all that stuff, but we can figure something. You can always email too. I'm not putting you on this. Busy guy, but happy to do what I can. Sure. That's one of the questions I we share. We do it in our, you guys review the bylaws.
No,
That's section 1.
that's section 1.
We got a whole one tonight. Yep, that sounds good. Right on the website. Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Say goodbye. Yes.
Town manager. It'd be nice if he was present. Where'd he go? I'll just wait.
Yep. Oh, Sean.
Well, Sean's gone. It's kind of important. Yeah. I'll be big. Should I? Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to make sure he doesn't miss. Okay, fine. Okay. Next up, bylaw modernization, and the planning commission is present tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
If you're okay, Sarah and I.
We really should do this more, like, we
Yeah.
should meet together, so we're all on the same, I've said this with past boards, And sometimes people are, oh, Monday, 2 Mondays a month, there's good stuff. But like, you know, we'll go to your meetings on Tuesday.
Yes.
You do? Do you have desserts? 'Cause I know. DID
I
has
can
desserts.
bake for you. You can bake for me.
Perfect. I'll put in my request next meeting. So if you want to come on up, yeah.
Oh, that's all right. You guys will chime in.
The microphone is important.
Okay, very good. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. You want to,
So last time we looked at the bylaws, we had some that you guys proposed to us. We had a couple questions, changes on some zones, what, you know, if they should be all changed to residential. I think some are off Jewett Ave, one off Lower Newton, I believe, by Lamont's Body Shop, stuff like that. So if you guys just wanna, if you have questions about those or anything.
so I think the bylaws were transferred to you. We had a public hearing and they're served, the next formal step is to transfer the bylaws to the select board for you to consider approving. I think that's when there are some questions that arose, and I believe Megan did a very good job at coming back to us and trying to convey some of those questions, but I think we tried to take a practical, common sense sort of, well, let's talk them through and see what questions they have and what we can answer. And some of them seemed pretty easy and straightforward, so I don't know if we want to go through them all or if there are just some that we can highlight that, or if you had any others in particular that,
I think the only one I mentioned was over off Jewett Ave. About
I think she's specifically talking about the like text changes. So like the
oh.
site plan change from 4 units to 5 units, the outdoor storage.
Are you guys good with that?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing on that.
I think
so once a bylaw is transferred to the select board, you can make minor changes without needing to transfer it back to the planning commission. And so I think there are some that were sort of cross the threshold and being substantive changes that
Yeah.
would then require us to go back and have more public hearings, what have you. So I think that was sort of the nature of things. I'm familiar with the one that you're talking about in Jewett Ave that was sort of split zoned and we weren't sure. And I think that was going to be investigated. Have you guys had a chance to investigate that yet to see
No, I've reached out to the landowner and haven't heard back from them yet.
in terms of what they're, because I think what we tried to do in terms of the scope was actually be more progressive and allow people more uses and more density on their property. And so I think that was going to be a conversation with the property owner just to see what their long-term plans were. And if it was owner occupied, then one way might be better than another if it was not. So I think we're willing to consider either. It's just a matter of trying to work with that property owner to see what fits their it's split zone right now, right? So yeah, I think the idea was to try and make one property wholly zoned because it's a pain in the yes, it's a pain in the bylaw for both staff and for property owners when it's split zone like that. It's hard to have your property be one thing and have to be another. It's sort of a Frankenstein property. So so the bylaws themselves.
The other one though, on that you had brought up about Lamont's, or I believe that's his name. He's currently non-conforming use. But grandfathered in, allowed to exist as long as he exists.
So
So
if we-
changing it would not make it any more non-conforming when it
That's all right.
affects
Just
him
didn't
at all.
wanna Stack anything against
Mhm.
it.
So. Question, so if he sells that business but keeps it an auto or whatever he does over there. Does that mean the new owner is non-compliant or they grandfathered in also?
That use is
The
grandfathered.
use is changed.
Correct.
But if they want to change the use to whatever, okay.
Then, right, changing the use would then have to follow bylaws.
Yeah.
You couldn't go more non-conforming or even a different non-conforming.
Yeah.
It would have to either stay the auto body or go to a permitted use.
So I
or
think
condition.
that property, I believe, just off the top of my head is rural right now.
Mhm.
And so by changing it from rural to residential would actually offer them more uses that they could
It would, okay.
possibly in the future, but they
I
have an
just don't
absolute
want to
right to.
short somebody, like, you know, because he's got a little bit of
Mhm.
property over there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Were there any other questions on the map changes or?
That was the only two.
I mean, I'd asked, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Sarah, about how many acres or building lots or whatever generally, I don't know the exact number, but How many have been now moved into residential if this, or when this passes?
You had the numbers, so
Did get the
he
number.
likes playing with maps quite a bit, so it's, and it was a pretty high number. Do you
Yeah.
Yeah,
recall?
over 800 acres, we would be changing from rural to residential,
And how many? acres-
directly around
Yeah.
where water and wastewater is available.
And how many acres, what's the minimum to, for a building lot, 1 acre, 2 acres?
No, in residential, it's a fifth of an acre by state statute.
Not unlimited, but that's a lot of, could be a lot there.
Mhm.
It's a lot of potential. I
Could be
think
like
we're very happy
1,000.
with ourselves in terms of really trying to address the housing problem that we heard about earlier tonight in terms of providing some resources for the town to make things easier. In a thoughtful way.
Where did we fall in the commercial with not the garbage, but the stuff?
Outside.
So that was part of, I think, the bylaw, to sort of switch gears, if you guys don't have anything more in maps, we can switch to like some of the bylaw text changes, which is, I think, where some of more of the questions were. And I think just to go through those, we can hit that one first was, bear with me, 8.4.3.12, which was outdoor storage. So that right now, we were discussing this earlier, is a conditional use. So if you want to have outdoor storage, it usually is you apply for a conditional use. And this was adding language to make people more aware of what is going to trigger that. So that's something that's already on the books. And I think there was a lot of language that was added in that seemed to us to be very specific to addressing a problem. And it's hard to address the problem that you don't know about. So it was, well, let's have this conversation and see what we're missing here. I don't know if there was a problem specifically with outdoor storage, or because some of the wording that you were looking at was to change it to be readily visible from the public right of way or in a public service access area, i.e. a fire lane.
Yeah, I think what we were looking at is, let's say hypothetically, someone wants to put an outdoor storage behind their building. Can't see it from the road and it's not in the, it's not in the way of a fire truck or any kind of emergency vehicle. Would that need to be? Would that be allowed? I think that was the change. we were looking at.
Something like that.
So that is not necessarily a change right now that should require conditional use, correct?
Well, I think we were talking outdoors, just to say if somebody bought, say if they got 10 dump trucks, and they bought 2 more. Right, and they park them out behind their building. The way I read it, that's outdoor storage. So now technically, so we kind of talked about it at the meeting, like there's some issues at the shopping center on the north end with people parking out back, and there's a lot of stuff out there, I guess. So like that's in the fire lane or close to, like that's where we can have some control and say.
So that's usually a
this
state
stuff.
fire marshal issue. That's usually something that's more like a legal issue than a zoning issue. If it's in a fire lane or somehow blocking fire access to a building. I think what we're looking to do is working with staff was on this, clarify and just say the outdoor storage and display of materials, goods, vehicles, equipment, or other materials is prohibited unless it's specifically approved by the DRB, which is sort of the case right now. So I don't know, AJ or.
Yeah, I just want to talk about how I might interpret that. So to your point, if you're out there's this pre-existing business that has functions of the business, like dump truck thing and a contractor shop or something like that. This would not be triggered. So outdoor storage of materials and goods is more looking at, say you have something heating company and it already exists, right? Just saying. I think that's actually happened. So this particular person started storing all these propane tanks on their property without having any sort of review. And by doing that, they had blocked the access around the building. It wasn't fenced in, so it was, kind of an issue. They were putting some lighting on the building to be able to deal with it. So the outdoor storage of materials isn't so much about, accessory things that are already in the use of capacity. It's more of like if you are a landscaper and you're stockpiling all sorts of material and you're putting it right on the boundary line and it's raining and it's going into the ditch and your neighbor's ditch is getting flooded. It's more about stockpiling material. It's also looking at with your family dollars, making sure that they're not having these displays that are outside all day long. Like, some of them, Like the basketball, it's making sure that if you're having anything that should be contained, that should be screened, that should be making sure that it, you know, looking at lighting, like that kind of thing. It's not about these previous businesses that have trucks that have things like that.
And AJ, I think what you just said, just to or connect the dots on that too, is it's looking at around the building and access, it's things like fire access. So it's basically saying that if you want this, it needs to go to our process so we can make sure it's safe.
Right, and not only that, but it's not saying you can't have these things, but there's certain things that should be screened, you know, making sure you're having compatibility with adjoining properties. So not that you can't continue your use, so that you shouldn't have something there, but where are you putting on site, making sure that it's not in the water, that you sure that it's properly screened, that it's not going to create an access for fire. Because the fire department reviews all of the, so, you know, there's a particular spot where he's like, oh, I don't love this here, but I don't love this here, you know, could they move it over here to easier for us to get a truck around, then that's something that goes.
So you're not concerned with, well, Tractor Supply, FW Web, you know, when you get.
That's part of the overall review set being reviewed anyway, like the things are being part of, but this is just, if, you know, they want to add to the site, if they want additional areas. I would look at it case by case. Now, if you have FW Web, they already have all the things in this section that's already outdoor storage, and they want to, feel, but if they're saying, well, we want to use this, we also want to use this on here, we're going to take 3 pages to do it, that's all. They need to where they're
So if, you know, there are a lot of businesses, they'll put in these storage and shipping containers and stuff. Do they come back to you for those
I
or?
would consider that the larger than 50 square feet, yeah, but a lot of times I'm just not going back to the door. If they only have 3 parking spaces and they want to use school there, just professionally take care of that, and I have to work with it. But like, how that Champlain Commons, we just did that, right? So it's not meant to be, you know, like someone locked and then have to go back and forth, just make sure some of these bigger projects.
I think that's where we work pretty well, is trying to work and listen from your staff, which are working with the business owners, and see how we can make things easier and clarify things and make it better. So happy to have you guys and bring cookies, and we can talk about how to make things better too.
What kind of cookies?
I think I'm full.
Can you, if we're done with, are we done with this particular question or? I don't know if we're going back to or whatever, but the question Jonathan brought up with, you know, the original recommendation was about 4 units, right? 4, I think, right, 4 units and greater having whatever kind of review. And we had discussed whether or not making that 5 would be a good idea. And I was curious what the board, whomever, what your opinion of that was. Is it 4 or 5's fine, or is it, oh, that's a vastly different animal?
So I think that that's another, so we're working on bylaws all the time. And we have more, you've added more to our to-do list. That would be a substantial change, I believe, from where we were at. So what I think we'd like to do is ask to leave it at 4. And if you want us to consider 5 and have a conversation about that, I think we could as part of our next bylaw. But we have a lot of stuff that we've been working on. We'd like to get those 800+ acres through and get people to be able to work on them. And then if there are things that we can come back on. And I think from what I've heard, the board's idea is that you're also on the same page in terms of wanting to make housing a little bit of an easier process. And was that more of your idea behind the 4 versus 5 or?
Well, yeah, because it's easier to take an existing unit and upgrade it to 5 than it is just to put 5. You know, that's another thing, like somebody taking a vacant lot nowadays, construction prices. Like, it's not easy to do a 4 or 5. I'm just going off a little bit here, but like, trying to read it real quick. But I
So
think,
it was that site plan part. I have it right in front of me, so I can throw it out there for you guys. Which was what needs to go through the site plan process. And so is that 8.4.1 And it was, basically, you trigger a site plan for any multifamily residential containing 4 or more dwellings. So your idea would be to have the threshold be 5 or more. And I think that's worthwhile having a conversation because all those things like parking and what have you that are usually looked at with site plan would not be looked at. And so I think there's having some density in a thoughtful way that doesn't create conflicts. It might be one of those things too, to try it out and see where we're at with 4 units. And if some of those are fairly easy and we're not running into, we really don't need to be looking at parking and things like that, but, the idea is to at least have a floor be standard. And we can always come back and turn that dial and make it a little bit easier.
So quick question, so if I go to AJ and wanna put a 3 unit, you still look at, what is it, 1.5 parking spaces per unit or
One space
per unit?
Yeah, I would look at things that I can't look at administratively, where any sort of screening requirement. I don't have a fair department. I don't. There's definitely kind of protection for doing. As the conditional use is, so yes, you can have this one, you can have the 5%. So by having the site plan, it just is the added layer to make sure that it's hopefully.
See, so I'm just gonna give you my opinion of it, the rest of the board can make their own. Like, you know, if we're trying to increase housing, anytime you put a handcuff on anybody, it slows it down. Like, well, just like going for a site plan, so I've been in front of the DRB for stuff. And they're like, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do, well, we can't do that, we want you to do this, and it might not make sense at all. And I'm not saying anything bad about the DRB, but sometimes the owner is trying to do something that he has a budget for, and then what the DRB suggests is beyond the budget. You know what I mean? So I just, I'm still gonna go with the 5 as per the edit in the PDF that Megan sent us.
So if you do that, what that will do is then trigger that we have to bring this whole thing back for more public hearings and it sort of restarts the process and makes everything take long.
I mean, I
So-
understand that, but so do we just move forward?
So can we sort of have a conversation around some of the concerns that you had on that? Because I think land use regulations is the balance of private property owners' rights and the public good. It's a tough thing to balance. And I think we all want this to be successful. And I think we've worked really hard to try and come up with something that will be palatable to the neighbors, which will come out against things. And provide a certain level of density that is also drastically increasing for the entire town. And so it's that balance. What this says for a process is, and this helps spell out some more parameters for the development review board too. So how do you look at things? So you don't walk into the development review board and say, well, these things would be nice to have. There are specific parameters to be reviewed. So I think that helps. And that's something where absolutely, I think that would be a great dialogue to have between the select board and the planning commission in terms of how we improve that process for the future. I think these are some great first steps here. But I think that also the thing to realize is if you don't provide good parameters, you can still come in and get the permit for what, zoning permit? For 4 units. And that is appealable by all the neighbors as well, same as with the DRB process. The DRB process just gives a chance for those neighbors to come in and have some like, hey, maybe I'd like to see some more trees rather than just an appeal process. So I think that's where the development review in the planning commission process can actually help us get additional density, is by brokering some of those more dense situations with some of the neighbors that might otherwise have some concerns about, hey, that's a lot of new units coming in next to me. Because otherwise, when you don't have it before a planning commission or any sort of a board, like you have the public input tonight, a lot of people are just gonna say, for $225? Is it for the appeal to the environmental board? It's a couple $100 to appeal it to environmental board and basically stop everything. And that's more of a deal killer for most people in terms of time, energy, and money. So I think these are great questions, and I think that we are all looking forward to having the same thing, but I think it's just, what's a real deal killer tonight for you guys that, or what can we get sort of moving forward so we can help unleash some of this density?
So I guess a question I have, Steve Jonathan, is I'm not a builder, but is there a threshold between 4 and 5? Like people are gonna be more apt to do 5 than 4, or
Four usually fits the best.
4 fits
1,
the
2,
best?
3, 4.
And that's why it's just to bring the 4.
Just to bring it, if it's 3, nobody built a 3 unit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit our construction. Well, you can, but I'm just saying with today's cost, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you go. I'm just saying, that's my only, like, 'cause I just think we need to make it easy, because we are short, I don't know necessarily short in the town on housing, but if you look at NRPC's housing assessment, some of the neighboring communities fall really short. So, you know, and it is what it is, but I think we could probably help that, you know. And I don't think everybody that has a lot that can put a 4 unit on or has water and sewer is tomorrow gonna run down and see AJ and say, hey, I can put a 4 unit in, turn my house into 4 unit. Because one, where they gonna live, unless they live in 1 unit, they're not gonna go buy another house, you know, because there's not much out there for sale. So I don't know, I kind of see it. No, I'm just saying, so say like where you live, Amanda, like, say if you want to turn your house into a 4 unit, like, you would never do that. Well, you don't have wastewater anyway. but- Okay, so say if you did have wastewater and water and everything flew, like, you wouldn't, because where would you go to replace what you know, you see what I say? Like, I don't see, like, I don't.
Like, where they keep their house, build another.
Well, no, just 4 is easy, like, so say if somebody buys a property like an old Victorian and turns it into 4 or whatever works out. Like, it's 4 just fits, like, it fits with the equation of how much rent does the developer have to get back in order to pay for the investment and to house somebody, because let's face it, the construction costs are through the roof. Like, you look at like the building that's going up in the city, there isn't no private developer that can do that. I mean, the one they did in Morrisville, I think was like 380,000 per unit. Like, the mortgage on that is probably, I don't even want to get, you know, you'd have, your rent would have to be over $3,000 just to probably break even, you know, for that 1 unit. So I'm trying to make it affordable for people that want to buy a house or has a house that's like a Victorian or ain't in the best shape, put some money into it and turn it into a 4 unit to create some housing.
I guess my argument would be, if it was possible, and I would want to be reviewed if I was a neighbor, because there's no parking.
Well, didn't you just say if it was, if,
Said it would be reviewed, that's what our.
but if you had 3, you wouldn't get a permit if there was not enough parking.
So they change it. That he could, is that something? I think that. I don't know if you can kind of walk through, but I just.
Well, I understand that, but you know, we're in kind of a unique time also. I think 4 is the way to go. Like, 3 is, if you're,
I just put an application. General speaking. The time that a position is generally 50. There's point, I think what we're trying to avoid is having to come out of the woodwork and actually have to feel it. So nobody even notified me of it, and I'm going to feel it. Because there are people that have, you know, very strong feelings about keeping things around them exactly the same, and what I don't want to have, don't want to see the conversation not that when I'm in the level of things I spoke before, because somebody Which so they can still do it, like the developer can still do the 4 units, it's not a no, it's just a little bit more. professional.
It's something that's happening right now in the city where a applicant got a permit for a permitted use of 3 units in a house, and the neighbors have appealed it to the courts, and now it'll be years before that owner will be able to build that, possibly years to build that unit, versus if you go before DRB, the neighbors are heard, they get addressed by the DRB members. In certain ways, they get some of their answers or concerns answered, and then they can move forward within 6 weeks.
So are we down to just, of all the stuff that we've given you, are we just down to one unit? Is that,
Well, I
Are there
think- I just
anything
don't-
else
I don't
that's-
understand when you jump from 3 and now you just go to 4, like, so everybody loves a 3, but not a 4? Like,
no,
I-
we
I
love,
think it's just because it's there, and if we change it at this point, it would have, this whole thing gets thrown out, goes back to the planning commission, takes another months, right?
well, you already-
Another months of work, and then none of this gets implemented, none of this can be used now by projects that are ongoing.
Do you have anybody looking to use any of these changes?
Probably, I don't know.
there's
right now.
substantial changes across the board, so I'd hope that somebody is.
Well, I didn't know, like, if we have somebody like, hey, you.
There's vehicle rental facility that got approved under a conditional use that would need the village core district, creating this district down here for the village core is a big substantial change that would be helping. And we've talked with people that are looking at moving businesses down here that would help with those types of things.
I think this goes to why we'd love to meet with you guys sooner rather than later, because we had known this one issue of 4 versus
Mhm.
5 several months ago. This should be a very quick conversation tonight.
Well, I mean, we talked about it when the state changed the 3 to, or they added 3 to 4 to where a single family could go. And we decided on the board just to, I think it was the last bylaw change, maybe?
It was a year ago. Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, something like that, when we added 3 and 4 units are permanent.
Yeah. And it is a permitted use, it's just,
We went above and beyond because it's originally like the way the law was written was 3 and 4 to be permitted in order to municipal water. We went above and beyond that. Even if you don't municipal water and sewer, if you're able to get that as far.
So the way it is right now, if, say, somebody on Lower Newton has municipal water and sewer, they could come to Barrow and get a 4-unit permit. If these new bylaws were in effect.
Yes, but they would have to get a site plan, they would have to. They would have to think.
Is there a cost for a site plan?
Yeah, but it's, so say if there's a single family home already there and they wanted to turn it into a 4-unit. I still need site plan approval?
Yeah.
And that's going in front of the board.
Is there a substantial cost for that?
$150.
Yeah, guys, one more question. You mentioned, Megan, that if it was, say we moved it to 5 and it's at 4. I mean, one thing we don't want to avoid is also another kind of litigation that takes a long time. I mean, how likely would that be? I mean, again, if it was something on the complaint was just they didn't like where the parking was, is that something that would then be able to be tied up in court for, you said, years?
yeah, there's a possibility that environmental court doesn't work very fast. So it's not them appealing to the DRB and then getting a 6 weeks. Our short time frame. It goes to the state level time frame and then could hold up projects for months or years.
Just one more question. I think I asked this last time of you, but do you foresee this more being used? You know, we make more areas residential, that there'd be more 4 units going up, new ones, or is this more going to be just converting existing homes into additional units?
I think with our housing
Mix of
stock, we'll
both.
probably see new versus conversion. We don't have many older homes that are being converted into multi-unit at this point.
Okay.
That happens more often in the city, I think.
I think we just would like some guidance about where to go with this. As I said before, we have other things that we're going to be working on as soon as we sort of get this off our docket. So we're happy to get this through and come back and look at process for multifamily and making that more streamlined. But just to get this through and off, or if necessary, we'll take the whole thing back. But I think just looking for some direction on.
Yeah, there's
that.
two options. You guys can actually hold our public meeting hearing because we didn't open it last time, but you guys can hold your public hearing and make a decision, or you guys can send it back to the planning commission. But I think it has to be done by motion. Either.
I'd be fine with staying with 4, and then next time around, we come back to that. It's just fine.
Well, I think I tend to agree with that in the sense that it'd be interesting to see what we run into. If the 4 is a problem, then move it to 5. If like people are going to threaten litigation, or if there's a lot of strife every time the 4 unit comes up, then it's probably important that we leave it at 4. But if nobody cares and people start putting 4s in and no one ever barks, then move it to 5 and save the developer or the landowner the headache of going through all the process. That's just a rapid.
Yeah, I'm good.
We can change it later.
I'm good with letting it go over quick. Guys have it for now.
Because I think that was the only substantial change. The rest were minor grammatical type.
I think some of the other feedback too, was, for instance, talking about, some bike and ped master planning that we're going to be working on too. So absolutely. I forget, there were some other things that were just clarifying some small things.
Facilities, really,
At-
that was the only substantial.
The others were just all clarifying things that seemed relatively.
Yeah.
Things that we're already working on or love to. I think the other thing, just to take it from what I'm hearing from the board in terms of really being on the same page about trying to enable housing, is maybe we come back and maybe it's a couple units higher. Maybe we take a look at what would it need to be to have good parking standards and things like that in place. Maybe after things are working well, maybe there's a higher level exemption rather than going from 4 to 5, maybe it's 4 to 6. But just to sort of try things out, make sure that people are feeling comfortable with it, get some positive stuff behind it, and then also looking to clarify our standards, because I think that's the other sort of takeaway tonight that I had was some frustration with the process with the development review board, and maybe there's some other things that we can look to help with. So I went before ages ago. I went before the development review board, and it was an okay process. You guys were okay to as an applicant. So it's always something that you always are trying to look at and improve, and absolutely.
Never do this stuff. Find down the road something needs to change. You did wrong.
It's an ever evolving book, especially with law changes and industry changes and technology changes. This book is never going to be just set in stone. It's always going to change. We have a whole new list already. Yeah.
And so we know it's gonna constantly change, and so I don't know, we look at it and see how it, because it's we're working on the theory of practicality of the bylaws. And so we need to see how our theory actually works with the community. And so we know that what we put in there, if we change, we're okay with that. We're just trying to see how we can create a good standard for the community to grow. So we do know that it's gonna come back.
So what would be, I'm just thinking out loud a little bit, which could be dangerous, but it'd be interesting to see, like, we roll this out, town rolls this out, to see track housing starts, which I'm sure you do, to see if everything the town's doing to try to encourage housing actually creates housing. Like, to know, and if it doesn't, then what needs to change to do that? Other than interest rates, but I'm trying to make a a transparent process that actually can make a difference in the housing situation.
We have some of the easiest regulations locally.
I mean, just kudos. You guys have staff that's willing to like bring to us and like tell us how to make things better and listen to developers and bring it back to us. And so, you know, I think you could be your own marketing person for Albans Town at most planning commission meetings, which is great because, you know, interest rates are going to come down. And it's great. And the work that this board that I've seen you guys do in terms of water and sewer now available, and that paired together with the regulations, it's like the town's doing something that now a lot of other people are doing. It's really exciting to see where things are going and just, so I know there's some negative stuff earlier tonight, but this is a really fun, positive thing that I think we do have fun with. And I think it's, going to be exciting to see where we're going.
Well, you'll never get it right.
He would know how.
Having been involved with four town plans where we sit there and argue for hours about how to fix this problem, and we do it, and then, oh, it didn't affect that. And then you go through in another one and then you just never get it right, but you just gotta keep rolling.
That's one question for AJ, maybe think. How would this number 4, how does that compare with the other towns in the county? Are they about the same?
I feel like other municipalities have interpreted S100 a little bit different than we have. We've kind of taken our approach and we're like, this is what we think it's trying to say, and this is how we're going to allow for it. I think other municipalities are like really tightening their thought a little bit, and they're not willing to allow the growth because there's fear behind it. But I don't know specifically in terms of numbers, like how their site plan works or how it works, but I do know that hard.
So if someone wanted to build a 4-unit, I'm saying they were open to any town. It's saying all that's still competitive advantage or something.
I don't know if you're familiar with the city bylaws or not, but I think it's a little bit easier to even finding it.
We have easier process in Fairfield.
Fairfield.
George's.
Fairfield.
We're on camera, everybody. So we're on camera, everybody.
Let's not critique other towns harshly right now, okay?
Perfect. Oh. I just. So, but the thing is, we have an industrial park that has, you know, looking for employees pretty near at every one. So I think that helps our tax rate. So I feel we're obligated to encourage housing in the town, and I definitely don't push it away. Like that's big.
I think one of the biggest things though is, you know, people's fear of this new S100, it's not new anymore, but the S100 and even Act 250 rules is we're going to turn into other states, and where you protect your residents and your land is through site plan review. So you have growth, but you have smart growth. You have growth that makes sense where the roads are located, makes sense where the parking is located. That way you're not causing hardship or burden on neighboring properties. And it's just a much smaller review than having to go before Act 250 and conditional use and site plan and permitted and PUD and all that stuff. But it's adding still that protection of that smart growth to ensure we are growing, but we're not going to turn into a Burlington where it's just houses. Not that Burlington's bad. Anywhere else.
But I think the idea is the next thing to sort of listen to is what's coming out of Act 250 and the tier programs. And so there's going to be Act 250 exemptions.
That's where we are.
And so that's the sort of next thing to be looking at is, all right, what level of site plan review do I need to have to be able to qualify for maybe a higher tier for higher level of exemptions? And so that might be that, yep, our site plan criteria got a little bit more stringent. However, now we're able to offer some people Act 250 exemptions. So, you know, as you said, it's always changing, but I think this is sort of the exciting thing of you don't talk about Act 250 exemption that often, so.
I got a feeling you're gonna see this new Act 250, not to rework it, because they're only gonna get in. All wrong. Fine.
Well, another thing that we've been talking about for a very long period of time that we haven't gotten quite right that we'll keep on working on But I think there's a lot of promise on the future. So I think it's one of those cup half full, a lot of good things happening, and hopefully we can move to take advantage of them.
Very forward, this project. And I think you mentioned statement that what we're doing, maybe the council impact all along range.
Yeah, the TOD project is reviewing development master planning for our growth centers. So although the first word in that study is transit-oriented development, it's more about the development that supports transit. So that our consultant is looking at our growth centers and gonna give us, with the input of the public, give us master planning ideas, drawings, maps, bylaw changes that will support this large growth that's needed throughout the state, specifically in this northwestern area of Vermont. And we'll have more changes that will come from that, that will give us the opportunity to support those units that are 5, or I'm sorry, 4, and maybe even more, like Sarah was saying, where they might give us specific bylaws that allow AJ to review a 6-unit building, and it doesn't have to go before. And that's what that study's doing, is giving us, hopefully giving us the tools to do those types of things in those growth areas. For now, until we change it again.
Just to be clear.
Love irons in the fire.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else?
We need a motion, Mr. Chairman.
So do you have a date on the, should we throw a date in there on that motion? Is
Do
there-
we want to, for like their next public hearing,
Well, we gotta,
right, or decide?
we gotta have a public hearing.
Yes.
Make the motion during that public hearing. This is more just a,
Right, your motion has to be to decide either to have another public hearing or to send it back to the planning commission.
oh, you need a motion for that?
Yeah,
I thought.
to go back to the planning
Well,
commission.
because we
need a
know we're
motion.
going to the we know we're having another public meeting because we didn't open the public meeting last time.
Right, you don't have to though. You can just,
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion to have another public hearing for the bylaws?
Is that what the motion needs to be?
I believe so, right?
no, your motion would
leave it
be to
back.
send it back. If you're gonna have a
We're just
public
gonna
hearing, we
have
need to
it. We
schedule
just
one.
advertise
Well, that's
it.
what I said.
Yeah, no, so you don't need a motion to.
That's right, because we got to
Right.
open up the hearing. Yeah, okay.
You have a decision. One is a motion, one is no
Yeah.
motion.
No,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
we are gonna have another public hearing.
Yeah.
Right?
We
We're
don't
not
need
gonna
to-
send
we
it
don't
back
need
at
to
this
make a
point. But moving forward, please, you can email Sean and I or the entire board changes right through the process. We'll either
Gave
make
them to
com-
you in June.
Huh?
I gave them to you in June.
You need
But
to give them
this
to
is
them with
important.
cookies.
Next time. I'll show up cookies.
Wings.
Okay, so we'll schedule the next public hearing.
Thank you, guys.
Perfect, thanks for coming.
Good stuff.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not even looking at it.
Reverse.
Yeah.
We're unspoiled. We're unspoiled.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Thank you, AJ. Okay, so next up is the town declaration of inclusion. I'm going to go ahead and read it because it's in your packets and I believe everybody else read it. Before I go ahead and read this, does anybody else have any changes on it? Okay. Nope. Here we go. The town of St. Albans is in full support of the Declaration of Inclusion presented to the people of Vermont by Governor Phil Scott on the 7th of May, 2021. The town of St. Albans will uphold all laws, state and federal, to ensure that citizens of St. Albans Town have equal access and protection of rights and freedoms provided by the Vermont and United States Constitutions. The town of St. Albans continues to adhere to its existing personnel policy as it pertains to all town municipal employees and will make sure that employees understand, respect the expectations contained in that document. The Select Board of the St. Albans Town encourages the St. Albans Town community to work together to ensure that all people can live freely and express their opinions free from fear, intolerance, and prejudice. Endorsed by the Select Board on September 16, 2024. So,
John, that's because it looks like we had the town of St. Albans with a capital T on most,
switched.
one didn't, maybe we could just change
that
that.
Yeah.
got changed in this
Oh,
document.
it did.
I
I'm sorry.
caught it
Okay,
earlier.
okay, thank you.
So having said that, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the declaration of inclusion?
I will make that motion that
Thank
we
you.
accept this declaration of inclusion that we wrote ourselves, St. Albans Town.
I'll say.
Perfect. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That, town managers report,
Yep, I'll make it quick.
I hope so.
Tanglewood project's officially out to bid. Stormwater project, so that's 30, 40 years in the making, I believe.
Yep.
That's closed. Bids are due next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. Kind of piggybacking off of Megan with Stantec coming next week. Is it, which store is it in? Is it Payless?
Nope, this is a former worth of meeting, 13658 Cummins Road.
Former worth repeating, next to Pizza Hut. Okay, so that's Tuesday and Thursday next week.
Tuesdays from 5:30 to 7:30, there'll be a wrap up of what we have identified as the data for the town. This is for the TOD project. And then Thursday will be the presentation of first alternatives and ideas for that method. And Wednesday is open all day. That office, that room will be open all day. That public can go in and talk to our consultant staff.
It's like our headquarters, basically.
Yeah, and get answers and get the data and maps and just have conversations throughout the day.
That's next to the pizza store?
So the next is Pizza Hut and 18.
And the new owner of the plaza, he let us set up in his, right?
Yep, they're like this.
Very welcoming and easy to work with.
Megan, besides like Facebook and I think it's on our website, are there other ways we can try to get that out? People can know that?
Yes, so today's Facebook website is not much photo. I've created just a couple of flyers to put around the town in various locations, and there's an article.
Ended at that. Nice. Yeah. I'm not doing any more than that. I'm good.
The one with Tango would be all done?
Depends on contractor availability. Hopefully they can start it this year. And finish it early spring next year.
And then what's the next project on for that?
Cloud Allen.
Where are we at with that?
That should be, yeah, most likely it'll be under contract this year. Both of them, but depending on basically weather and the construction season, how long it lasts, they'll start and finish next year. We had a lot of companies turn out to the pre-bid meeting.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah, like 10 companies.
wow.
Yeah,
Record.
there's a lot, yeah. It looked like there was a block party, I think. Like it was like genuinely the whole street. So, yeah.
Yeah, just thinking of all those projects that have been
I hope so.
talked about 20 plus years. Sidewalks have been, I mean, I went to per sidewalk plan, but 20 some 19 something.
What's that?
I'm just saying how long we've been talking about sidewalks, you know, we got
Yeah.
sidewalks done, Tanglewood's gonna be.
Yeah, we're doing a lot. Yeah.
Clyde Allen's gonna be done,
Mhm.
making progress, slow, it's
Indeed.
obviously slow. but
Yeah.
make
We're
progress.
knocking them off the list.
Yeah.
It's how the wheels turn now.
Do it. Do it.
So other than that, does anybody have any other business? Are we doing executive session tonight? No, perfect.
I have one comment, just,
You
I
can go ahead, Jeff.
should have brought it up when the chief was here, but people are driving like crazy down Longshore Road. Like Sunday morning, there was a jogger jogging on the right side of the road against traffic and somebody. I was going to the store for coffee and somebody came around the S turns at 50, 60 miles an hour and the jogger had to jump into the ditch to avoid being hit. I turned around in the turn and went back to make sure she was all right. And she was, but he is not kidding. People are driving out of control. And I'm sure it's just a few people, but they're definitely putting some people at risk.
Yeah, hopefully when the next officer and when the street crimes, hopefully when that comes into effect, it eliminates, it
Yep.
frees up a few patrol officers because there's obviously low patrols going. Okay, having said that, anybody have any other business? Okay. Next meeting is Monday, October 7th, and Monday, October 21st, starting at 6:30. And would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.